Life of Love
Like the rush.
with Joy Wilson.
Dear Creator, God, Goddess, Universe, thank you for bringing us together. I look forward to our conversation with Katish and her guides, her archangels who have generously brought us together. I honor her time, I honor her experience, and I look forward to us bringing forth a message for the highest good. I call in my guides, I call in my Akashic team, and I connect to my higher self as I open my heart and ask for a frequency of intensity to reach the ears that need to hear and the hearts which wish to soften to these messages as we bring forth a message for the highest good to help humanity to connect to Gaia, to be in our joy, to have curiosity as to what is possible and connections not only with all humanity, but with the dimensions that are available. And as always, take what serves you and leave what doesn't. As we call in, I welcome Katisha's guides and her awesome archangels. I know that they're around me too. We're all part of this team. And so I thank every entity for the benevolence and the good of humanity to join forces and collaborate in this space that we've created, this container of love, acceptance, and sharing. And I honor each soul that listens and shares these messages as they're adding to the collective spark. And so I thank you, thank you, thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Well, hello, dear friends, and welcome to another episode of Life of Love, where we gather each week to bring forth a message for the highest good, to connect with this community of dear souls who tune in and wish to live their life of love to the highest expression possible, however it looks on this day, knowing that some days require more grace and some days we seem to just sail through on calm seas, but honoring each path and each bump as it adds to the kaleidoscope of our knowledge and our experience. So today is a very special day, and I get to collaborate with my dear cohort. I'm just really excited to connect to her, Katish Haberfield, right? And she's coming to us from Australia. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me here. I really appreciate it.
It's my divine pleasure. And I was just so excited to connect with you to talk about happiness and living in joy and what that means, and maybe, defining it in ways that are more accessible. And so I'm excited. She has her own YouTube channel and a podcast called Infinite Life. And so that's a wonderful resource. I don't want to forget to mention. She's going to share with us insights of how to connect to expansive time and connect to our souls. And yeah, I'm just really excited for her to bring forth her connection. And I guess let's start out by expanding on why you came to your place of saying, okay, I'm going to teach people how to connect with joy. Was there something that you lacked joy in, or was it, I think it just helps people to understand your motivation and how you started on this journey, and then we can go from there.
Sure, I had a bit of an initiation by fire to get to the angels. So, in order to be a vessel for and study joy, peace, neutrality, happiness, and love, you've actually got to understand and really feel the depths of despair, fear, anxiety, anger, and sadness that people here on earth are going through. And so I was blessed to have a very stable and average happy family childhood. I had parents who stayed together until my dad died. So it was the get married, live happily ever after. So I didn't have that childhood trauma. Nothing went wrong in my childhood, so to speak. I was just an average little girl who loved the fairies and, liked doing good deeds and was a brownie. We have them in Australia, like the brownies, like the Scouts brownies, that sort of thing, Girls Guides. I love to read books. I had a vivid imagination and, I played with dolls and Lego and everything, like I had a perfectly normal childhood. I was a bookworm, so always reading, and so I would consider myself to have a happy childhood. My teenagehood was, just a typical teenager. My parents moved to a whole new country. They moved to Papua New Guinea, so I didn't get to see them very often, and my sister. And it wasn't really till I began to be in university and meet other people that, I started to dive into the world of being an adult and what it's like to drink alcohol and to have great expectations on a career path that you think you're studying for. And then I sort of came up with a lot of blocks in my career path. And I was like, well, I'm supposed to be this. I've set myself up to be this, but it's not happening. And so I began to start to experience a lot more frustration. And wherever I worked, it was sort of in this motto of work hard, play harder, which meant that, you worked all hours of the morning and then you went out on company drinks and company functions and companies trainings, and they basically taught you to drink yourself into oblivion. I wasn't an alcoholic, but I just learnt to de-stress through alcohol, and that's perfectly acceptable in society. And so what that does is, as soon as you start drinking to, sorry, really knows, as soon as you start drinking to relax, you lower your vibration immediately.
Yes.
I'm also an empath. So what that means is that I feel the emotions of other people. I feel how they're feeling. It's as though I absorb it. So, when I was in my teens, and I used to attract a lot of people around me who I needed to support. I became like their mother friend, their mother girlfriend, and so I would absorb all of their anger and self-blame, self-hatred. And because I didn't have any boundaries back then, and because I didn't work with the angels back then, it affected my self-perception, and I began to feel down and angry. And when you've got that vibration around you, guess what? In the spirit world, you start to attract all sorts of nasties that come around because you're associating with alcohol, and you're associating with people who are of a low vibration. And I didn't have any skills to help them at that time. And, we do have this myth that, talking through with your friends and giving them all the best strategies you have is the wisest thing to do. And it's not, because you're not a skilled life counselor or a coach or a therapist. You're just a friend, right? And I think that the more I tried to help people with my everyday skills, the more I got in thicker. And so it began to feel like a cloud of heaviness around me for a while. And I attracted situations and life stories and experiences that, somebody else would say, oh, that wasn't very much, Katish, don't worry about that. But it just felt like this heavy weight. And so I started to learn to do things like look after myself through essential oils. And we know that essential oils are really good for increasing your vibration. They help you with your olfactory system, and the olfactory system is just so important for working through emotions and thoughts. So I spent a while really studying deep into aromatherapy so that I could help myself. I was a mum with 2 boys and newly divorced, and they were only tiny, and I knew that I was feeling anxious and sad. My dad was dying of terminal prostate cancer at that time. And I had a friend who had a terrible accident, and she was paralyzed. And so I was like, I don't have any skills or resources right now. I don't have any spiritual connection. How do I start feeling better? And so for me at that time, there were 2 things. It was photography. And if you're watching this on Julie's YouTube, you can see in the background there are a couple of my photos. And the best place to be for me in the world when my kids were at kindy or daycare or, school was to go out into the middle of the forest or to be in the beach. And there I felt at one with nature, and I felt relaxed, I felt at peace, and I felt that I could just stay in the middle of the forest or on the beach forever. But I was a mum with 2 kids. You can't do that. So I tried to have a career in photography to really just let nature take all of that gunk out of me, all of that stress out of me. And what it instilled in me was awe. It was the first thing in my life, apart from remembering looking up around at the flowers as a child and looking for the fairies, was when I was in the forest or on the beach, I'm in pure awe. And my first photographic exhibition I actually called Wonderment, because I was in wonder and awe all the time when I was taking photography and taking photos of nature. So photography, and then really diving into the science of essential oils and how you can use certain essential oils to help you with various emotions, and learning how to put them on quietly in the background for the kids as they were going through emotional turmoil, basically set the basis for me that my house will be a house of peace. No matter what hormonal stuff we're going through as they grow up, I choose peace. And that those two things, photography and essential oils, are what I would call my gateway into accessing new states and beginning my journey to be open to be a spiritual being.
Wow, they're both gifts from Mother Gaia, because
Yes.
when you can't be outside, you have your essential oils to connect to her and her gifts. It's such a strong path. I can relate. That was my first, I guess, initiation too, was essential oils. And I think that um, the whole idea that scents can take you places. And even now when I connect to like grandparents or people who have passed on, I can smell the earth around my grandmother's garden when I think about her. And my grandfather always had he always smelled like gasoline because he always worked on his tractor, and, certain, apple pie baking, those things are very innate, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to have that subconscious connection, and know that it's really there. It's not just your imagination. It's for real.
Yeah, yeah. Scent is amazing that I agree with you completely. When I connect with people who are aunties and uncles, I smell them very strongly as well. So it's, yeah, a really good cue that you've got somebody in spirit who has crossed over. They're in the light by the scent connection, because you do, as a little girl, you will associate a smell with your mum, your dad, your aunties, and your uncles. And especially, your grandma, they all have certain signature scents that they wear, that, even this way that we wash our clothes, the house that we're in, it all carries that scent. But there'll be a particular aroma that locks into your memory and says, this is the aroma of my grandma, and you'll forever be reminded of them. And you know that it's true because the first time you smell that aroma, once they've gone to the light, it makes you cry. Well, it does for me. You're like,
Mhm.
that's grandma. Grandma's here. How can grandma be here? I'm nobody special. Why would grandma come visit me? She's got hundreds of, and you're like, duh, you're her grandchild. She's checking on you.
Loves you. She loves you so much. And I can relate to that whole idea of alcohol bringing down your frequency and opening you up to things that don't serve you. I've done a couple episodes about, being sober curious, and what alcohol actually, it dims your soul. It truly does. And it's been normalized to, like you said, work hard, play harder. Um, the Friday night, go out and blow off the steam. I find it interesting. My boys, they have been exposed, but like my oldest is like, I have no interest. Like he's 21. He just does, and that's legal drinking age in the US. He's just like, I just have no interest, because I feel like he's sensitive to his frequency, and he doesn't want to feel that way. And that just wasn't, when I was in college in the 90s, that just wasn't a thing. Like everyone just went out and partied. And I know that I have strong angels because I survived those years. It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
so segue to angels. So fast forward, you've connected with Archangel Michael and Zadkiel.
Kill.
Zadkiel. And so how did you know that it was them? Did they announce themselves? Tell us how they have given you this assignment and what that
Yes.
assignment is.
Yeah. So I'll start with Michael because that's the easiest one. And I think for a lot of people on earth, Michael is the easiest angel to connect with. And that's because he's steeped in religious history. So even if you grew up in a house of faith of some kind or religion of some kind, he's the angel that they talk about in all kinds of religious scriptures. So we know him. I like to call him the post-up pin-up boy for archangels and angels, because he's depicted as the manly, blonde, gorgeous one, right? Like anyone who paints Archangel Michael, they're like, I love him. I love him. So he's got the biggest frequency for people to go, I know that energy. I've seen that before. I trust that one. And he's portrayed as a protector. So he's the one that we naturally cry out to in our time of needs, especially if we're going through problems in our own religion of origin. Maybe we can't connect to a spiritual being of any sort. Maybe we're having trouble with understanding in the religion that we were born into. And so an angel does seem more approachable than, say, God or any of the concepts or the names that we call God in other religions. And if you've grown up in a agnostic or atheist household, then an angel does also seem to transcend religion. And so people also can find it easier to connect to an angel because let's face about it, they are just pure energy. And it is the way that our human mind interprets them that allows us to see them as angelic beings, and they're very happy to be represented in that way. And that's why the energy is formed to help us human, because it's a friendly thing. So Archangel Michael kind of set me this kind of like we call it a treasure hunt throughout my lifetime, which I could only see that it was a treasure hunt in retrospect. And when I really started connecting with him in my professional life through past life regression therapy, he was the first angel that turned up to assist in the sessions. And so it was through my clients actually identifying and saying, okay, there's an angel here, and his name is Michael, and he's got a message for you. That confirmed the stuff that was happening in my everyday real life. So, for example, as a 20-something, I traveled Europe, and he sent me to a place which at the time I hadn't thought anything about, but was Mont Saint Michel, and it's famous for Archangel Michael. In COVID, actually, that was where they brought out the relic of Michael, which was his sword, which had not been touched for thousands of years. And they brought it out in a very special ceremony, which I happened to find on YouTube at the exact moment that it was being brought out.
I had no idea. I'm dying here. I'm like,
yeah, there's this sword of Archangel Michael's that they've had in this locked case for thousands of years. It's like, and they brought it out at the start of COVID to help with getting rid of the energy, to help people feel protected. They did this really special ceremony to say, come back, Archangel Michael, come back to the earth, come help us navigate through this time of COVID. I've got goosebumps thinking about it.
Was it the Vatican, or who had this?
No, I'll have to dig it out and find the link so that you can put it for the listeners in your podcast notes. But I remember it was linked to that place in France that I had been to. And I remember it was a very special, dedicated group of monks who looks after this sacred relic. And I was like, are you serious? So that was one example.
That's so cool. Can I interject for a second?
Yeah, it was like, there's a message. And so he also showed me ways, like my grandfather's name was Michael. I had like so many boyfriends growing up named Michael. It just like continually came these signs of Michael. And I'm finally like talking to I hired a medium at the very beginning of my journey of spirituality. Because I started doing a lot of work with ghosts, actually. I had an ability to hear and cross over ghosts. And I was like, how do I know if this is real? How do I know if what I'm doing is, like, how do I, when you first develop all your senses,
you think you're imagining, it's your imagination or something, How
do I prove this? How do I know what's happening? And the angels came through, I asked this medium, I said, Radio, I've done all this crossing over of ghosts, and how do I prove it? Can you see if any of them will come back to say, yeah, she did cross me over. I was there. I was at that cemetery. She helped me, or whatever it was. And before she started the session, she connected in and she said, before we even talk about this, I've got a message here from Archangel Michael. I was like, yeah, okay, here's a good sign. And she goes, he says to you, your life purpose is to work with the angels. I was like, okay, didn't expect that. And then she brought through all the ghosts who all confirmed everything. So I did a whole season on my podcast, and I'm writing a book about ghosts. But
I saw that.
yeah. So the connection with Michael is that was able to be the, so to speak, guiding light to keep reassuring me to follow my spiritual path in all the signs that he showed me. I was dealing with my father's death and being divorced, and so I felt alone. So he was my guiding light, so to speak. I also had Jesus as a main spirit guide, even though he's not a spirit guide. He's a ascended master. Jesus was always there for me as well. They would introduce other angels and other beings and other people to me. It was like they're the gatekeepers, so to speak.
Okay.
And so with that work with crossing over ghosts, Angel Michael was fundamental because he would show himself in the sky. And so my most famous incident of crossing over a little boy named Harry, I actually was on a local radio station because I had heard that there was a boy ghost. They did a segment about, do children see ghosts? And this mum rang up and she said, yeah, my children used to see this ghost in this cemetery. And I went, hang on, that's near me. And I was like, I've got to go there. And at that stage, I was like, I don't even know if I know how to cross over ghosts, but I'd been trying and I'd been sent a few ghosts through my work to cross over. And so I went there and I stood there and I was like, I don't even know this boy's name. If I see a ghost, at that time, it was very new to my third eye. And I don't have any sign. How do I know what I'm doing? Where am I going? And I just stood in front of two graves that really called to me, that I later learned were two people waiting to be crossed over. And then I walked down to this bunch of trees and I thought, if I was a little boy, where would I hide out? I thought, here, you play little boys of 7-year-old, because I knew he was around about 7, would hide in trees, play hide and seek. And suddenly I felt this energy, and it was like a child jumped on my back, for a piggyback. I physically felt the weight of this child jump on my back, and I'm like, I've got it. This is him. And at the same point in time, I watched in the sky, and the photos are on my website. The clouds turned from a clear blue sky, not a single cloud in the sky, a bit, if you're watching YouTube, a bit like this picture behind me, nothing, to the most amazing visual representations of angels in the sky. And then I was like, how do I tell Harry he's got to go? How do I get him to go? And I was like, Archangel Michael, please help him. And the sky turned into a vortex. It was like this whirl, which I've got, the Archangel's image turned into a whirling cloud in a vortex. And suddenly I felt as Harry went up. And I said very quickly, and please take all the other ghosts in the cemetery. And then as the clouds floated away and as his energy went away, the final image that just made me bawl my eyes out was, in the clouds, you saw the image of Harry and his mother reuniting. I took a photograph of that. And then as I walked back up to the top of the hill, they took all the other ghosts, including there's a little girl and an older lady, only like in her 20s. And the sky then erupted into this like traffic jam of angels, all in the sky. And I was like, am I seeing this? And I was seeing this. And that's part of the story of the book that I'm writing, is to show me that, yes, when you see signs in the sky, is scientifically, clouds are a scientific thing, right? They exist as part of nature. But the angels form them into shapes so that you get an affirmation that what you are doing is working, or what you are seeing is real. Because of our sensory perceptions, we are hardwired to doubt, right? Mm-hmm. And so the angels are like, look at me. I'm here for you. I'm showing you these signs. Keep going, keep trusting, and we will take you step by step through this process. So Archangel Michael was really, really important for me in developing my spirituality, in developing my skills in mediumship, in clairvoyance, on all the clairs, and in working with me in sessions, so that I was confident that even though I was following a process of hypnotherapy and past life regression, which is spiritual, but it doesn't really call for a lot of overt calling in the angels. As soon as I started doing it, the angels were always there, and my clients, who I nearly said guests because they feel like my guests, would always see, feel, and sense the presence of the angels. So I would call in every single session, Radio Archangel Raphael, bring in your green ray, and I'd step through them and I'd say, which angels can you see? So they've been involved in my work life as well. And then it was this segue into, I've always been fascinated by people who can channel. and watched them for the last 20 years. And I always thought, oh, it's not something that I can do. You have to be a great spiritual guru to do that. And Michael's like, no, anyone can do it, but you have to understand how to protect yourself. You have to understand what isn't a energy of a soul who hasn't crossed over and gone into the light versus somebody who is in the light communicating a message through. So that's an important distinction you need to learn. You need to learn, first of all, to be of service. So you have to help everybody who is stuck. And that's part of your initiation process. We will not let you do the channeling until you know how to help people who are stuck, how to get into the light, how to communicate with them in the light, because each one of those is building up your spiritual capacity. And also you need to understand that when people die, they are filled mostly with regret, guilt, sadness, and they want forgiveness. And all of this energy around them, because we don't share our emotions freely in society, and we always look at things from our one perspective, and it's very hard to learn the true aspect of soul forgiveness and what your role is and what your root cause of that interaction is, what the karma is, if you understand karma, and what you need to do to be of service. These emotions can become so strong, the energy behind them creates entities. So you need to be able to understand that often when there are ghosts, there are negative entities with them because of all of the regret that they've had in their life. And so this regret, this guilt, this sadness is holding them back. And you need to move through from being scared of that to being able to see the wisdom in that, and then shining the light in that energy that is the darkness, so they can see through that deception of badness, because we live in a duality here on earth. It's, there is good and evil, but you need to be able to learn to see the darkness, see the light within the darkness, and then free that darkness and send it to the light. So Michael was involved in that, but that's when he brought in Archangel Zadkiel. And it's taken a lot of trust for me to let go of my Archangel Michael harness. It's a bit, if you imagine a mum and dad with their little kid who's got their teddy backpack on, and like Archangel Michael's been taking me out for a walk for the last 49 years. And Zadkiel's now like, it's my turn. So I went through this long initiation before I was allowed to even learn to channel Archangel Zadkiel. So that's a very long explanation.
Wow. So when you say you're helping people cross, or entities cross over, you're talking about the people who didn't go to heaven, who didn't have the, is it that somebody, like you said, they die with regret, shame, guilt, fear, all those shadow emotions that they didn't face up to in their time in their bodies. The people that need to cross over are stuck because it's too dense, it's too heavy to go to the higher realms. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So when we die, we can go straight. If we can see the angels, or you can see your auntie or Jesus or whoever is important to you, we will go straight. Doesn't matter what religion or faith belief of origin. You have to go into darkness because you can not, you're like your spirit. You're not,
Your
don't have physical body.
consciousness. Yeah,
you're
your
just
consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
you need to be able to see the beings of light, and they're very bright. But also there is a lot of darkness around you. There's a lot of fear around you, because this is where you do your life review and you judge yourself. Now, you can either do it in the darkness, surrounded by all the negative things and possibilities of your life, or you can go straight to the angels and you can do it with them. It's much more preferable to do it with them. But all of our emotions, if we don't process them in our life, they either get stuck in our body as disease, or if it's not your thing to manifest a disease in this lifetime, they're like, if you imagine like you put on a jacket, like a fishing jacket or something, and instead of having your lures in there and all that sort of stuff, they're like stones that weigh you down. And so at the time of death, if you're weighed down with this jacket of regret, guilt, remorse, anger, loneliness, despair, it's like a blanket that's put over your eyes and you can't see the bright lights. And what that does is that then attracts all of the energy of despair from everyone else who is stuck. And you're like in this swirling cesspool of negative emotions, and it's frightening. And that energy intensifies and creates beings out of this energy. And so what we need to learn to do as human beings is, one, forgive ourselves and learn to love ourselves, because we're not perfect. We're a work in progress. And two is to learn different methods and different ways by reading books, meeting new people, where you can forgive yourself and forgive others, because it doesn't matter what they do to you. I mean, it does, but it doesn't matter what they do to you. If you can see in your heart forgiveness, then you become free of that. Because when you hold any emotion against somebody, no matter what they did, it's like a dagger in your own heart. That's what Zakai shows me. It's literally a dagger in your heart, because you can be put in the most extreme of circumstances where brutal things are happening to you, and you can use that energy to purify your soul, or you can use that energy to bring your soul down. So working on emotions is a priority. That's what the archangels want us to do, is learn to be okay for little boys to cry, be okay for people to express their emotions, but also have awareness that emotions can bubble up, but we can express them, and then we can say, right, let me look for the wisdom in that emotion. Why am I feeling that way? And let me first of all say, it's okay. It's okay to be mad, sad, greedy, angry, envious, but let me get some help with that. I don't need to take it out of my family. I don't need to take it out of my coworkers. There are all sorts of wonderful people who are basically what I call angels in disguise. If you're a therapist or any kind of a counselor or any kind of a person that helps with emotions, you're an angel in disguise. And they have their own ways and procedures to help you move through that emotion so that it's not sticking you down. The second thing that we need to learn to do as human beings is to let our loved ones go. Because yes, we are all very upset when anybody in our life dies. And we have to go through a grieving process, which, there are, Elizabeth Ross Kubler did go through a whole process explaining all the stages of grief. But if you don't let them go, if you don't get over your grief, if you don't deal with complicated grief, if you don't say, I am grateful for the time that they were here, I'm sorry that we had this interaction, or whatever it is, it actually literally weighs them down and they can't go to the light. The cords between you and your loved one are still there. And so if you are 10 years still into your grief and you haven't got over the loved one, you've actually held them in an animated, not a cage, but a bubble, and they can't go to the light until you let them go, because they are looking at you and they are seeing your grief. They are reviewing their own life, and they can see what they did to you. They can see what their words did, what their lack of words did, what their lack of hugs did, what their harsh judgments did. And they will see all of that before they see all the wonderful things that you did, because it's your emotions that are so intense that they are saying, I can't go. My loved one is so distraught. They're not being helped. They're still thinking of me. Maybe I should stick around. And because we're humans and we have free will, the angels won't take you until you say, I'm ready to go. And the problem is that on Earth, there are so many relatives that are stuck here trying to help their relatives because they won't let them go. And, we look at this in the process whereby we distribute the wills. How many families does get destroyed because of asset division? Well, if you only have one person that's pissed off in this asset division process after a will, you've got one person that's holding back a human being. And so we need to learn to resolve our differences in the best way that we can while people are on Earth, so they don't even sit there in this dark place, in the dark thoughts of their minds, reviewing their life and all their actions. They sit there maybe for a second or two and go, you know what? That was a rough ride. I'm really sorry for what I did. I'm going to try better. And I'm not going to stay here obsessing about it. I'm not going to try and help you. I'm going to go with that angel who's going to heal me. They're going to give me a healing blanket. They're going to make me feel warm. They're going to give me something to eat and drink. I'm going to feel blessed. And they're going to take me up to this special room where I can sit with them on, like I see it as a swinging chair. And they're going to sit down and tell me a story. They're going to let me talk about all my woes. And then they're going to say, would you like to go to a healing room now? We have the most beautiful angelic rays of light there that will cocoon you and help you work through the emotions that you are seeing now that you see your life and how it affected others. But it's okay. We don't judge you. There's no judgment day. You judge yourself. And what we need for you to do is to get rid of all of those emotions that you are holding on to, so that then you can come back around, and if you need to be, you can be the grandma that they can smell. Because once you've got the grandma that you can smell, or the being of light that they are, because we're not just humans, we're beings of light of all kinds, then and only then are you qualified to be the spiritual being that can stand between them and getting hit by a car, or whisper in their ear and say, put the drink down, you don't need it, or get the taxi instead of the bus tonight, or do you know you're really gifted in painting, why don't you become a painter? The world needs more painters. And so
What I
that's
hear you saying is like it's letting them go is more of an emotional detachment, that every relationship is good, that everything's fine. There's nothing left for them to resolve. Like, we're good.
we're good. Yep.
We're
You did your
good.
best.
And you don't stop thinking of them. You don't stop loving them. They're still in your heart, but there's not any negative. When you say cords, those are the negative cords, those attachments that will hold them from going on and reaching their next level of ascension, so to say, or feeling peace. Otherwise, they're just hanging out in the static and the chaos of your negative emotions.
Correct. Because no matter what they did to you, it's like that saying Maya Angelou has, when you know better, do better. And so no matter what happens to you in this lifetime, if it was something negative, that person didn't know any better at that time. So give them the grace, as you say, to learn to know better, so that they can be better, and know that you're not perfect at the same time. So yes, grandpa might have been a nasty person, but let him go so that he can reflect and review, get that beautiful angelic healing, and say, right, I'm ready to go and look after my grandchildren if I need to, but I'll do it from a place of light, and they will see me as an angel.
And then you're helping the collective, the energy around the earth, to have less of this chaos and negativity and heaviness, and so we can expand. And the angels have empowered and given you this as you're the messenger to let people know. It's really important to look at your shadow, to
Absolutely.
say, I'm angry, but is the anger coming from fear? Am I just scared that I'm going to lose somebody, so I'm getting angry at them and I'm trying to control them because I don't feel safe? And maybe I was left alone at home too long, and so now I have these attachment issues. And to understand where rage comes from, and fear, and all these shadow things that we don't want to talk about because we don't want to seem like we're broken, but that's the places where you can learn and grow and release, and then you go to heaven faster. Or whatever it is.
Yes. You see the angels, you see the light in the darkness. And the important thing that they say to me is you have to be very aware. You don't just go out there and associate with sociopaths, narcissists, and murderers, but they all have a soul. They are all learning, and you can learn from a distance compassion. And so, people won't like me to hear me say this, but important part of my work has been crossing over murderers as well. Because we don't want them in the dense energy around Earth. That just attracts more people in the same energy. We have to make sure they get there.
These murders haven't passed on, is it like a portal? Is there like a collection of them that you connect to? Do you have to like move to a different place to find where they are, or you just ask and you're sort of connected energetically? I'm just really curious.
Yeah, so the way that I've connected with them has been very specific, and it's been, I guess, scripted as part of my journey. We have some historical sites here in Brisbane that I've just been drawn to. So there's a jail here called the Boggo Road Jail, and it was a nasty, nasty place. You were incarcerated in there, you became a worse human being because of the way that they were treated. But, and we were a convict settlement to start with. So people ended up in there originally for, stealing a loaf of bread in England, and then stealing another loaf of bread when they got to Australia. And, it's like, oh, you've stolen 2 loaves of bread. So now you're, or they were bushrangers and they murdered somebody for money or whatever. So, progressively the crimes got worse. But at the end of the day, what the angels have taught me is they're somebody's son and somebody's daughter, right? They came to Earth out of a joyful creation, generally speaking. You know, we have sex and it's joyful and happy, and they wanted a baby, and that they were given the gift of life. They made some really unwise choices, and perhaps they were clouded by things that happened in their childhood, or discrimination or hatred or poverty or alcoholism, or they were beaten up by their parents. You know, children have historically been terribly treated by parents. And so when we are crossing them over, we will see their anger and their hatred, but that's not them. That's the negative entity or the demon that is attached to them, because they faced such an awful, awful incarnation as a human. They made bad decisions, and it got worse for them. It's just like nobody was there to show them the way, and they just became a cesspool of anger. And so I've got to look past the negative energy, see the scared, hurt, poor little child inside them, and say to them, I'm not afraid of your persona. I'm not afraid of who you became, because I can connect in with my heart, and I can see, it makes them cry, I can see that little boy or that little girl who is scared. And they will say, but I don't deserve it. I will not get to heaven because I committed this atrocity. And I will say, I've got a really special angel here for you. And he knows that there is no such thing as forgiveness other than for yourself. And, you know, sometimes I've had to say to the ones, especially at the jail, I was like, can you see anyone in the light? Can you see behind that angel? Can you see up there? And they'll say, yeah, there's Fred. And he's got a beer in his hand. Is there beer in heaven? And I said, well, if you'll follow the angel, yes, there's a beer, and you can sit down with your friend Fred, and you can break some bread and have a conversation, and Fred's there to tell you how you went and hear all your woes and your stories. And before I even finish that sentence, they're gone, because they've seen that somebody special in their life has forgiven them enough already to hear their woes and their terrible stories. And then the archangels will have already escorted them, and like they wave at me. You know, I've had a prison warden, and I showed her that there was a special tea set and a strawberry shortcake cake waiting for her, and she was gone. She just didn't want to go with that other guy because of the energy and the interactions they had. But she was gone. I've had, you know, lovers reunite from prison cells. It's just beautiful. And then they bring in the rescue spirits of light, who are a special dedicated team of angels and souls who have committed to helping the demons see their inner light, because they have also been through dark incarnations. So they know what it was like to get distracted by the dark and the negative deeds, and they commit their selves and their souls to helping get clear of the energy, because the earth, Mother Gaia, she's already raised her vibration. That's the whole point. She has been doing her inner work. She's a beautiful being inside of our planet. She's done her work. She's raised her vibration, and she's like, guys, please raise your vibration, because you're no longer in resonance with me. So please do the work, clear your emotions, learn about angels, read about happiness, understand how you can move one thought to a healing thought. And that's all we ask you right now, is to find happiness in the everyday moments, and to start being aware of your emotions and help others become aware of their emotions too.
It's so beautiful and so powerful. I'm like so touched about this. And it's not, you said 4 Hail Marys and a Our Father, or, you know, you lit this incense, or it's none of that. It's purely in your own being and forgiving and having compassion for yourself. It's not complicated.
That's right. Yep, that's right.
So where do the demons are connected to these people who haven't crossed over? Where do the demons go when the person raises their vibration by forgiving themselves? Does Archangel Michael transmute them into something else, or what happens?
They get the light is shone into their core, and then they go to the light.
So it's not just that crossover, it's helping the whole energy grid of Earth. And, you know, it came into my consciousness that Mother Gaia is raising the vibration because, well, there's meters around the globe which measure the frequency of the Earth's geomagnetic, and I can't remember what they're called, but they're stationed all over the Earth, and they are rising. The geomagnetic frequency of the Earth is actually, they're measuring, and it's rising, and that's why you wake up in the middle of the night, you might have hot flashes. We think it's always hormones, but these these energetics we're all assimilating. We're all feeling a little anxious because our bodies have to, acclimate, I guess. It's sort of like getting into a cold pool or a hot tub. You always feels a little weird at first, and then you sort of just surrender and get used to it, right? So you're telling me this is part of it. This is part of the Earth's ascension.
Absolutely, yes, because we chose the challenge for the Earth to be a school of growth, a place of growth for the soul. But also, it doesn't have to be a dualistic framework forever here on Earth. It can go back to the original intention of it being, like other planets, a place of joy. But there's a lot of work to do. And, our ceaseless, never ending cycle of wars over religion, over ownership of land and things like that, that's because those places on Earth are an energy hotspot where all the emotions are trapped. And so there are beautiful, beautiful people all around Earth who are learning to do transmutation of emotions and also work with ghosts. Because in these war zones, if there's all this anger and energy, all fighting over the same thing that's just been going on since time began, there's so many trapped souls there. And so there are special people who are constantly working with these hotspots in Earth to say, can we move this energy of this location, sending the violet flame in, sending the angels in, sending special spirit teams in, helping develop more and more ghost rescue mediums, because those energy spots need to become places of peace. And we don't all need to work on them. People know when they're assigned to do that. Work on your own location, your own house, your own family first. Create peace within your own world. And that then allows other people the permission to say, she did it. I used to know her when she was an angry woman, or I used to know her when she was,
controlling or
whatever. And look at her now.
guilty.
She just radiates love. So how do I do that? Oh, well, just one thought at a time, one emotion. Okay, that's too hard. How do I do that? Take this frankincense, please, darling, and put it behind your ears before you go to bed. Start small.
Yeah, and that intention, that's huge. That the intention that I wish to be peace. I wish to be of light. I want to serve the highest good. It's centering and life changing, that consistent alignment to your highest good, peace, love, harmony. Like things are going to come at you, and it's then when that's how you're reaching your next level, is when something comes at you and you're like, whoa, I'm really, really upset, and I'm angry, and I want to get even, and I want revenge. And then you're like, wait, no, this is a challenge. This is part of what I need to transmute. This is my sword to slay. You can borrow Archangel Michael to help
That's
you.
right. Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good. And I just want to remind everyone listening, you are born as a divine, loving being, and these layers get put, like I love the metaphor of the fishing vest. You get these stones that get put on you, and it'll keep going until you actually say, help me release what doesn't serve me. And I'm pausing because I'm hoping that anyone listening stops and pauses and just says, release what doesn't serve me. It does make you feel lighter. And, just I think at 10 o'clock my time this morning, or maybe it was 9:30, was the full moon. And the full moon helps us release faster what doesn't serve us. It's part of the geomagnetic pull on the earth. So we can use that. So I do think there's portals that, there's energy centers where something like you said, where wars keep getting fought over and over, and these places that need attention, that are getting attention. But if you feel called to spread and transmute any hate, then you're part of that solution. And it's beautiful.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm honoring that. So, okay. So my other question, and I know we're coming up on our time. Well, we are. We're at our hour. Are you good?
Good for like a couple of minutes only more.
Okay. Well, I wanted to touch on how you help people connect to their higher selves. What's an easy way for someone to start?
Yeah. So two ways to do that is, well, obviously through intention, but when you can notice your emotions and move it to as close to peace as you can, then you can sit in a quiet place. And sometimes, people need lavender or something nearby, to a flower or something to just calm their nervous system. Put your feet on the ground And basically, it's learning to connect with the heart center. So we're brought up with all of our schooling education is to connect with the mind, right? And that's how I grew up. And it's taken me a very long time to connect with the heart center. So when you connect with the heart, and it's not just I want to, but you can feel the energy in the heart, then you are inviting that energy and you can feel it radiate to be the not controlling, to be the centering force in your life. And so the best way that I can say for people on their journey to get to there is to sit in prayer or meditation quietly and just start saying, I see myself surrounded in a bubble of white light. Relax, go through a visualized relaxation so that all the, relax my eyebrows, relax my eyelids, I relax my nose, make sure you're really relaxed. And then say, right, I'm going to breathe in the white light. The white light's your higher self. And I'm going to breathe out and exhale all the stuck energy in my body. And I'm going to visualize it like smoke, gray or black. And I'm just going to calm myself, breathe in the white light, and then exhale the soot. And for that moment in time, just keep doing that cycle until what you're breathing out is clear or white
I
light.
love how this comes back to plants, because when we breathe out the CO2, the plants use it and make more oxygen for us. So it comes back to Mother Gaia and the plants again. It's just like one whole cycle. It's so beautiful.
Exactly. So that's the
beautiful.
best way to start. And then very slowly you can then invite the white light in through your crown chakra. Your spine is the facilitator of the higher self. The spine
Okay.
is, it comes in through your center here, goes through all the meridians and nadis in your body. But the spine, if you imagine, I decorated my Christmas tree this year where instead of putting the lights on all the branches, I did it up the spine of the tree to remind you that your higher self comes in and goes down through the spine.
Beautiful. I love it. And what was I going to say? I have a practice of when I start to feel unsettled, anxious, or frustrated, or whatever situation's coming at me that I'm like not comfortable with, I'll ask my higher self if there's something I can see. And I'll get quiet, go to my heart, and that helps me connect to my higher self. But I love how you talked about using the light and then you're transmuting and releasing out, because that's like another layer of exceptional movement, which is, it's all about movement. Motion is lotion, right? It's like,
Correctly.
keep it going. Oh, this has just been so enlightening and just such a delightful. And we didn't really talk about recalibrating joy, but I think people can probably read between the lines and realize that every moment's a chance to live the life of your dreams, and you just find that joy in that moment because there's miracles all around you.
That's right. Yep. And we can have a chat another time and go more in depth another time.
I would be delighted. Thank you. That'd be awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Archangel Michael and Zakiel. That's awesome.